Hello and welcome back to Surviving to Thriving for Highly Sensitives. And I am your guide and coach and host, Tammy Goen, working with high sensitivity with various clients and groups and individual and an online course. Just so glad to have you here. We're talking this month about energy. I hear quite often from clients who are just starting, or when I start talking about high sensitivity in general, people say, I don't know what to do with all of the energy out there. And my own energy is depleted, I'm always exhausted. It's hard to get through the day. And not looking forward to the next day because I'm just so low on that energy spectrum. So that's what we're talking about today, is trying to stop that drain of that energy. So I've talked before about, we have, two buckets. We have an input bucket that all comes from the outer world, other people, other, direct energies of groups, of the planet, all of that, just, adding into that bucket. And then we have our own reserves that will get depleted if we don't replenish them. And we want to get that balance between those, because when there's too much coming in and we don't have enough to work with, then we get to that place of overwhelm, exhaustion, wanting to just curl up and not leave the house. And we don't want that. We want everyone to be using our, the gift and expressing it, enjoying life to its fullest. So we really need to get a handle on that depletion of our energy. So often we can be around really chaotic energy, or just like there's just a lot going on, even if it's not necessarily chaos, there's just a lot, right? There's just so many inputs constantly coming in, and they can seem excessive or out of control, or just having that sense of chaos. And so we can tend to want to pull back, but while we're in it, it tends to fill up and then eventually overflow that input bucket, because for us, as opposed to someone who's not wired this way, not highly sensitive or highly sensing, it can just kind of flow off of them, not really come into their system all that much. For us, it's generally more challenging to let that stuff go, to not bring it in. And a lot of times it has to do with just knowing that that's happening. If we're not conscious about what's happening with our energy, or what's happening with that outside energy, then it can affect us without us even being aware. So when we have that situation, it can lead to anxiety, avoidance, we're just really feeling low, down. And then if it really gets depleted, then we can end up with, experiencing lack of motivation and depression, and just wanting to not participate in life, even though we think it's amazing and there's so many great things out there we want to be part of. And so it's really important to just have the tools, have the awareness of what's going on with energy, so that we don't get into that place of depletion. So let's talk about intention, because it's really, really important to realize that intention, like everything else, is energy and frequency. And it can seem really, really simplistic to say, oh, just, like have a positive thought and it's going to make everything better. But intention itself really is a matter of sending out what you intend, what you want to see, being aware of what the alternative would be, and say, no, this is my intention. And when we do that in the world, in the universe, it has an impact. And it seems like maybe that wouldn't, because it's just something that you're thinking and you can verbalize it. But either way, having that intention really, really does make an impact. And so for all of the things that are happening out there, those who are not highly sensitive are probably not aware of a lot of the stuff that you routinely are reacting to, responding to, because they just don't bring it in. It's not going into their bucket. They have different filters, and it's just not bothering them, or they're not aware. Now that can catch up to them. I mean, as anyone, of course, if there's not awareness, eventually, everyone can get to that place of depletion. Or you probably know a lot of people that you've worked super, super hard, and then you finally get a break, get a vacation, get time off, whatever, and then get sick. Because your body's like holding out. And then finally it has a moment to breathe. And then it's all that stuff comes up, and then, you end up with illness. But with us in the high sensitivity realm, it's really, it's important to have that intention, but to realize that when we don't consciously think about what's happening with our energy, we are absorbing it. We are bringing it in. And I talked somewhat recently about a reminder for me on that, where I thought I had it all, worked out pretty well. I've got all these tools and I managed my days in this way. And no, I'm good. And then I realized I was really being affected by the bigger picture, the global energy of, what's happening in the planet and the, humanity in general. All that kind of stuff was really starting to fill up my bucket, but I wasn't aware of it because I wasn't conscious of it. I wasn't having this intention of what I was going to do with all of that energy. And so having that awareness is really key. And being aware of what's okay to have in. I worked last week on the energy bubble, what you bring in, what you have, stay on the outside that can bounce off. But throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout life, we have people and even things, situations that will connect with us with like energy lines. Some refer to as cords, but these like little zaps of energy that are connected between you and the greater world. It might even be, your pet or your spouse. And so that you can have energies where you're connected in a positive way that's supportive to you. And then you can have those that are not so supportive to you, and those will create those drains. So some people will talk about cutting cords as if you could actually see, and some people can actually see these little, energy lines going between you and other people, other situations, things. And then we can actually be conscious and cut those cords. I was watching something yesterday where someone says they like to put one hand at the bottom of your chakra system, your trunk, your tailbone area to the top, and kind of compress those down and imagine that you're pulling in all of these energy lines that are not good for you, not supporting you. And take one hand and then go cut. Just have that intention. You don't have to actually do the physical cutting if you don't want to. If you do that just with your intention, I am cutting these ties, I'm cutting these cords. And then actually what she did was, take it in your hand and then like stuff it down into the earth and let the earth's energy, which is so much grander than ours, be able to absorb that and do something positive with it. But we separate from those. And one of the things I had a hard time with when I first started with energy work was that I didn't want to cut something that was good for me, right? So if I do a cutting, I'm isn't going to cut all of it. But then I've realized that it's sort of like, I was thinking of this yesterday, like when you get your hair cut, if you've ever had someone use the texturizing scissors, they'll go cut, but not all of your hair goes. It's just like here and there and here and there, because there's all these little holes and it only gets certain hairs, right? So with the energy, same, everything has different frequency. So when your intention is to only cut the things that are not working for you, everything else is going to be fine. So you don't have to, you're not worried about damaging anything, but being very intentional about like, I am not holding on to connections with these people or these things, or sometimes we don't even know what they are. We just put that out there. Whatever is not serving me, I'm separating from. So I cut that, however you want to do that kind of separation. You say, oh, I'm inside this bubble, everything else is out there. If it's in here already, I'm cutting that, I'm separating from that, sending that away. And it's never done in a malicious way, like this is awful, ugly, go away kind of stuff, because then our vibration itself will decrease, because we're in that mode of those heavier emotions or thoughts. But if we just say, nope, I'm protecting myself, I'm cutting ties from these, send those off, the cosmos, the earth will do something with that and help those people with those energies. And then we're in a place where we can relax and release and just be dealing with our own energies and those that are beneficial to us. So as a reminder from weeks ago, grounding is a really good idea. And especially as highly sensitives, we tend to be more spiritual, and whatever that is for you. Sometimes if you're in that mode quite a lot, you can not be so grounded. You're like connected, drawn up into the cosmos. You're really, you're head heavy, and then you're spiritual heavy, and then you're like up, and then you're not very grounded. So it's really good to just be doing this all ongoing every day. You can do a grounding exercise. So just as a quick reminder, if you just kind of settle into a place, close your eyes, take some really nice cleansing deep breaths. Think of as you exhale, you release everything that doesn't serve you. And then just imagine that you have roots coming from your tailbone, from your feet, down into the earth, as far as you can get it, all the way to the center of the earth. Just imagine connecting with that earth energy and allowing anything that's not serving you to drain through those roots and into the earth, because she can handle it. And just allow that connection with that earth energy, which is so, so strong. And anytime we can get our bodies to resonate with the energy of the earth, we hit this, place of flow and contentment and peace. We really connect on that frequency level. So just doing that regularly, like before you meditate or when you first get out of bed in the morning, say, oh, let me make sure I'm grounded. And you can do that exercise and any other way that you would want to ground. So I did want to mention, I can't recall if I had mentioned this in a previous episode or not, but there are techniques for grounding or earthing. You've probably heard of this. And if it's summertime or where you live, it's pretty nice and you can walk around with your bare feet. That's awesome to do as often as you can, and put your bare feet on the ground, on the grass, on the dirt, in the water. When you do that, you get negative ions that help to balance out our positive, heavy polarity these days, because we almost never walk around with our bare feet unless you're living near the beach or something, maybe. But being able to really reconnect with the earth as much as possible. If you are big into hiking like I am, you get somewhere and you sit down and have your lunch and you take your shoes off, put your feet on the ground. Anytime you can do that is really awesome. If you're in the winter, if you're in a place where you can't walk around barefoot or you don't have that time or access, there are tools, accessories for grounding, earthing, quite a variety of them. I have a band that I use when I'm working on the computer. I actually usually put it on my ankle so that's not in my way. You can get a mat that you can put under your computer or put your feet on. And what those do is just connect you through a ground wire in your house to the grounding rod that is connected with your house that goes straight into the earth. And all that does is connect you, even though you're inside, with that earth energy, and you pick up those negative ions that helps you to balance out. And it can help with a lot of different things, including sleep. So that's a really good tool to be aware of. And I do find that helps me overall in terms of just my nervous system. Sometimes it helps with sleep. It tends to help with anti-inflammatory stuff. So if I have things that are bugging me, those will often feel better if I spend more time grounding using that band, or if I am able to go out and put my feet on the ground, or go up and touch a tree and stay there for a little while. It's not going to help as much just to touch once and move on. You get that little mini dose there, but and you're around those little tree pheromones, and that's all amazing anyway. But for that benefit of the energy, that's really, really beneficial. So let's do, well, before that, let's talk a little bit about, so our nervous system is affected by all this energy, and everything is frequency. So there are frequencies out there that are really positive for us, like the earth energy. There are musical or sound frequencies that can be really helpful for us. So one thing that I always recommend for everyone is to check into solfeggio frequencies, S-O-L, I've got it written down, S-O-L-F-E-G-G-I-O. So solfeggio, if you just go to YouTube, type that in, or just Google it, all kinds of stuff will come up. And usually they're a specific frequency level, and it'll say what it's good for, because they all affect us in different ways. And even within our sensitivity level, certain things will respond to in a different way that might not be for somebody else. But generally speaking, there are certain frequencies that are good for certain things. And so the frequency 285 hertz tends to be really connected with our energy, the influence of energy, and being able to rejuvenate that and maintain some balance there. So one thing you can do is go onto YouTube or wherever and pick up one of those and have that playing in the background as you're doing your work or your chores or whatever it is that you've just got that going. It's usually some kind of a maybe a little bit rhythmic, but usually it's got, it's not lyrical, not something that's really, really distracting. It's just something in the background. So you can use that for meditation. You can use it for whatever you're doing in the house, or if you're out walking with earbuds or whatever. I mean, you can have that to increase that level of frequency that's coming into your body. So that can be really, really helpful. So in terms of other things that can help with decreasing that drain of energy is to keep your vibration up as much as possible without going to the stuff or using the stuff that is just inherently draining. So one of the things that's really helpful, first of all, if you don't have blue glasses, or like in my case, I have just a screen cover over my computer for blue light that keeps out some of the EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies that come from our gadgets. And the screen itself tends to be really challenging for your eyes. And we can be, of course, more sensitive than others to things like that. So having something like that on your device, or if you have glasses that you can have, put on and take off, that will help you throughout the day if you're on it a lot, with your, not just vision and your eye health, but you will get tired less easily if your eyes aren't having to work so hard, or if they're not responding to things so much. So that's a really good thing. And then I always recommend picking an hour before bed and turning off all of that stuff, just unplugging, not having all of that, not only the EMFs, but whatever it is that you're engaging with, if it's people talking or music or, the news, anything like that, that's more energy, more input, more stuff that's filling up your bucket, and it's going to be depleting. And you want that to definitely be minimized before you go to bed. So that last hour of just like unplugging and keeping that vibration up by doing something that's going to be really relaxing, really calming, something before you go to bed that just puts you in that really peaceful place. And then in terms of that intention, you can, of course, then have an intention, as I think of it, as sleep time. My intent for this sleep time is, and I set some kind of intention before I go to bed every night. And that helps me to shift from, the real world, as most call it, right? So before I go into the dream world, I want to not take a bunch of that stuff with me that might have, residue from that day, and just say, my intention for this night is last night it was, I'm energized about writing a book. And I said, okay, I would like some creativity and some flow about, my project when I wake up in the morning. And as it turns out, I actually dreamt about writing my book. So that was pretty cool, direct contact that way, and felt all that stuff flowing. So when I woke up, I was like, oh, I actually dreamt about it and worked through it in my sleep time. So that probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that intention, even though I had been thinking about it, but directly saying, this is what I'm working on, something that is going to be energizing and calming at the same time. You don't want to have, something that your body and your mind are like working hard while you're sleeping so that you wake up tired, but you can have that intention. So overall, really being aware of your intention, and then your energy level just in general. I've talked about doing the self-check, checking throughout the day. How am I doing? What do I need? And you can do that in terms of your bandwidth. So when you first get up in the morning, it's really great to say, how is my energy today? Did you sleep well? Did you not sleep well? Did you hold on to a bunch of stuff from yesterday? Whatever. Where is your level of availability for input? And based on that, you can look at your schedule. You can consider potential plans or whatever, and go, yeah, today I'm not up as high as I would like to be. My bandwidth is definitely decreased. So I'm not going to add anything to my day. Maybe I can even shift something if it seems, if you're looking at your schedule and you say, that seems a little intense for what I've got to work with today. Maybe I can postpone that a day, something like that. But we can't do that unless we're aware, and we have to stop and ask ourselves, how am I doing? How is my energy? Is there something coming in that's not serving me that I need to disconnect from? Is there some residue from yesterday that I can release? And then just being aware going forward. Okay, I have this much energy today. And yeah, I'd like to have more. And other people around me might seem like they have more, and they might actually. But being aware where you are every single day and every moment, really, how am I with my energy? What's my bandwidth? Can I bring more in? Do I need to release any? So we can keep that drain that's, can be really constant happening if we're not aware, and really establish a groundwork to move from throughout the day, so that we're not being inundated and have that bucket overflowing and not have enough energy ourselves to maintain that. Okay, well, before we wrap up, I would like to just take you through a little body scan exercise. So if you are where you can, sit quietly, comfortably, close your eyes, calm everything down. If you're not, you can come back to it later and do it. But we're just going to do a brief exercise that you can do on your own, anytime, anywhere, pretty much. I mean, you don't even have to close your eyes if you don't want to. If you're at work, you can kind of stare off, or run, go use the restroom and just kind of lock yourself in the stall and do this if you are at work and you need that, whatever situation you're in. So go ahead and just, wherever you are, take a nice deep cleansing breath. And as you exhale, just be aware that anything that doesn't serve you is just being released. And take another couple nice, deep, slow breaths. See if you can have the exhale be just a little bit longer than the inhale. Just allow your body to release and relax a little bit. And then now just we're not doing anything right now. We're just going to pay attention. So notice, we're going to start at the top of the head and just scan very, briefly, not overly quick, but, not really sticking in one place, down through the head, toward the mouth and the jaw, down into the neck. As we're going through, we're just paying attention to any spots that might be feeling dense or tense or blocked, heavy, anything that just doesn't feel good. Well, you're just going to notice. So continuing down through your neck, your upper shoulders, your chest and upper back, down your arms, down the rest of your trunk, into your pelvis and glutes, down into your legs, lower legs, down to your feet. And you're just noticing anything that feels tense or heavy or depleted. Hopefully you're not at a place of depletion right now, but you'll be able to feel that if so. So just being aware. And then now what we're going to do is breathe in. As you are breathing, think of breathing into your heart space. You're breathing in love and light and energy into that heart space with the air coming in with each inhalation. And as that air and energy and light and love comes in, see it radiating throughout your whole body. Seeing it spread to every little bit of your body, every cell, every organ, every system is getting just filled with this beautiful, supportive, loving light and energy into your heart space. And then as you exhale, you realize that all of the stuff that's not serving you is really running out of room now that we're filling it with all of this amazing energy. So everything that doesn't serve on every exhale just gets released out into the ether, down into the ground. And moving from the top of your head, just imagine that all that beautiful, loving energy that's coming in, starting from the crown, and it's not heavy, it's actually very light, but it drifts down almost like molasses maybe. And it just really fills, and as it goes down, all of the unwanted stuff just gets pushed out, released through your fingers and your toes, down into the earth. Every exhale is releasing what doesn't serve, anything heavy. And you can think of it specifically as any energies that have been coming into your field that are not serving you, You are now releasing with every exhale. And eventually all that is left is that loving, supportive, beautiful light and energy. It's filling your whole body. There's no room anymore for anything that's not serving you. All of the extraneous energies that aren't helpful, they've all moved out. And just scan through your body again quickly from the top of your head all the way down through your trunk and your arms and legs. Just being aware, how does that feel now that you are full of this beautiful energy and you've released all of this unhelpful energy? What does that feel like now? And just sit with it. Noticing how much better that feels than when you started. And then being aware of the room around you, the seat underneath you, your whole physical body, coming back to the room in the present moment. So hopefully that gives you just one more tool to use when you just really start to feel like there's so much energy coming in and you know it's starting to drain your own energy. You can just feel it washing away and you want to have more of that vital force, more of that energy throughout your day. You can do this or other techniques to just let go of all of that unwanted energy and then allow to replenish. And next week, 2 weeks, we will be talking about replenishing, but I'm excited to announce that next week we will have a special guest who's going to work with us on movement and sound for managing our energy. So going to be really excited. I'm looking forward to that interview and having that guest on. So hopefully we will see you next week for that. And then the following week, we'll work on more of replenishing our energy system. And as always, you can check out my website or look for the link for my online course. And soon to come next month, I will be having a monthly membership option as well. So we can work on a lot of this kind of stuff more in detail every single week, not in person, virtually, but with a group community. So good to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Remember, join us for that wonderful guest, and we'll see you later.